Good morning, Jets Nation. Welcome to the Jude Jets Show. And today, going to be giving you guys an early look at how the New York Jets can improve their offense this off season. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, yesterday I did make a video about the quarterback position, so if you guys want to check that out, it's going to be linked somewhere up here. But the Jets have some other needs on offense outside of the quarterback position, with one of them being a reliable wide receiver number 2. I mean, this season, Garrett Wilson was really the only reliable wide receiver we had, and he had over 1,000 yards with 3 different quarterbacks as a rookie. Insanely impressive. And next season, with hopefully a solid quarterback, we can see Garrett Wilson elevate that play. And maybe the same can be said with wide receivers such as Corey Davis and Elijah Moore. But Davis gets hurt a lot. I mean, he hasn't played in half the games he could potentially have played in with the New York Jets over his 2-year career. We can also save $10 million by cutting him, which I think Joe Douglas does. And there's also going to be some pretty wide receivers available this off season. Starting off with guys you could potentially trade for. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins and Brandin Cooks are both reportedly going to be available for trade this off season. And if the New York Jets can require at least one of those 2 players, I mean, that's the definition of a reliable wide receiver. I mean, Brandin Cooks has had over 1,000 yards 6 times in his 9-year career. In the seasons in which he didn't have 1,000 yards, he was hurt. I mean, Brandin Cooks is just the definition of reliable, no matter who was his quarterback, no matter what team he was on, because Cooks has been on like 4 different teams in his 9-year NFL career. No matter what team he was on, the dude seemed to produce. And if the New York Jets can find themselves a solid quarterback this offseason, Brandin Cooks is going to produce with that QB. And if we can get DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, man, that's just a whole game changer for this offense. Garrett Wilson and DeAndre Hopkins on the same offense. Who's saying no to that? I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL when he's healthy. I mean, the dude was suspended for 6 games this season and almost had 1,000 yards this year. He played in 9 games, finished with 717 yards, with the Cardinals having some injuries at the quarterback position. I mean, that's just insanely impressive. And I just said it, but Garrett Wilson and DeAndre Hopkins would absolutely be a lethal combination. But if the New York Jets aren't able to make a trade, we could also go down the free agency route. And this free agency wide receiver class isn't the worst in the world, but I also wouldn't say it's a strong one. The 4 best and really only guys I would like options are Juju Smith-Schuster, who's most likely not even going to hit free agency because I don't see him leaving the Kansas City Chiefs. So really the only 3 realistic options we have are Darius Slayton, Allen Lazard, and Jakobi Meyers. Now, none of these players have reached over 1,000 yards receiving in their careers before, which is okay because we're not expecting any of these guys to come in and be wide receiver 1s for the Jets. We're just expecting them to come in and be solid wide receiver 2s and even be wide receiver 1 sometime whenever Garrett Wilson, might not be able to play. Now, out of all of these guys, I really like Jakobi Meyers because he's another guy like Brandin Cooks. No matter who the Patriots have had at quarterback over the past 3 years, he's always seemed to produce. In fact, having over 700 yards the past 3 seasons for the New England Patriots. He's just a definition of consistent. I mean, the dude every single week manages to finish with a pretty respectable stat line, and he's doing that as the wide receiver number 1 on the Patriots. If he can become a wide receiver 2 on the New York Jets, with much of the focus being on Garrett Wilson, the dude can find himself a pretty nice role. Also, wouldn't mind Allen Lazard. I mean, this was his first time with a big role in the Packers offense. He started every single game he played in, finished the year with 60 catches for 788 yards and 6 touchdowns, which by no means is a bad stat line, but as the wide receiver number 1, he really showed that he's nothing more than a 2, which is what the New York Jets are looking for. I mean, if we can have this type of production from a wide receiver number 2 with Garrett Wilson also balling out, I mean, I'm all for it. I mean, what the New York Jets are looking for is nothing more than a solid, reliable wide receiver 2, and Allen Lazard can definitely be that. And the last guy I would really be down for in free agency is Darius Slayton, who despite some pretty rocky quarterback play from Daniel Jones over the past 4 seasons, has always seemed to produce in New York. He's gone for over 700 yards 3 times in his 4-year career with the Giants, and one thing Darius Slayton can do is take the top off the defense. This dude is a playmaker. I mean, he's never had more than 50 catches in a single season with the Giants, but the yards are always pretty high. I mean, the dude is a playmaker, and I feel like he would be very nice alongside Garrett Wilson, especially if the New York Jets can get a solid quarterback. I've seen a lot of people talk about drafting a receiver in the first round and maybe even the second round, but I don't want the New York Jets to go out and get a receiver. I mean, we're still talking about wide receiver being a need for the Jets, and we've selected one in the first 2 rounds of the past 3 drafts. Drafting receivers outside of Garrett Wilson just hasn't worked for us, and I just don't want to see the Jets do it this year. And then that leaves us with our second worst position group from last season, the offensive line. Now, despite the O-line playing horrible last season, the New York Jets actually have most of it figured out. We have Mekhi Becton at left tackle, Lincoln Tomlinson at left guard, and Elijah Vera Tucker at right guard. Maybe right tackle if need be, but he played best at the right guard position, so I feel like the New York Jets keep him there. So that leaves the New York Jets needing a center and a right tackle. And as for the center position, definitely could see the New York Jets re-signing Connor McGovern. I mean, the dude has been the best offensive lineman on this team over the past 3 years, and has definitely played like a top center in the NFL during his tenure with the New York Jets. Would be completely fine with the New York Jets re-signing him. And you look at the free agency class, there wouldn't be any centers that would be massive upgrades over McGovern. All of the guys like Ethan Posick, Garrett Bradbury, and Bradley Bozeman all play at similar levels to McGovern. So the Jets want a solid center next season, you go out and re-sign Connor McGovern. But if we want a potentially elite center, you go out and draft John Michael Schmitz. I mean, this dude was an absolute beast at Minnesota this past year. I mean, he was a first-team All-American for the Gophers. He was one of the main reasons why the rushing attack was one of the best in the nation. I mean, you go out, draft John Michael Schmitz, you might have yourself a potentially elite center. So the New York Jets are going to have solid center play next season for sure. So that leaves the New York Jets with the right tackle position. And the free agency class for the right tackle is very weak. Mike McGlinchey being the only really good option, and he does have a lot of ties to the New York Jets. I mean, his former offensive line coach in San Francisco, John Bennett, is currently the New York Jets offensive line coach, and he also knows our offensive scheme, so he could come in and run it like no problem. But he's probably going to get paid a lot of money, and I don't know if the New York Jets really want to throw around a lot of cash for an offensive lineman when we're going to be in position to take one of the best offensive tackles in this year's draft class at pick 13. I mean, Paris Johnson from Ohio State, Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, or Broderick Jones from Georgia, all most likely are going to be available for the New York Jets to take. Not all of them, but at least one of these guys, and all 3 of these guys are studs and can definitely fill the New York Jets right tackle position. So that's an early look at how the New York Jets can solve our offensive needs this off season. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the defense. Thank you guys for watching this video. Remember, the quarterback video is out already on my channel. If you guys want to check it out, it's going to be linked up here. But yeah, I'm your host, Juliet, signing off for now. See you guys later. Peace.